You bought the mouthguard. So why is your jaw still tight? Why do your temples still ache? Why does your face still feel tired by the middle of the day? Why does it still feel like your jaw is quietly working in the background, even though you already did the obvious thing? That question matters, because if that is your experience, there's a good chance the problem is not just about protection. It may be about pattern. A pattern that shows up while you work, while you drive, while you scroll, while you concentrate, while you push through stress, and while you move through your day without realizing how much effort your jaw is carrying. And that's what we're talking about today. Because a lot of people have something that protects their teeth, but they still do not have a reliable way to catch the clench while it's happening. And if you cannot catch it, it's very hard to change it. Welcome back to the Clenching Chronicle. I'm Randy Clare. This is the show where we talk about jaw clenching, teeth grinding, headaches, facial tension, nervous system patterns, and the kinds of symptoms people often live with for a long time before they realize there may be a better way to understand them. And today, I want to talk directly to you. If you have already tried something, maybe you already wear a night guard. Maybe you already know you clench. Maybe someone told you that there's wear on your teeth. Maybe you wake up sore. Maybe your jaw feels really tight. Maybe your temples get this heavy feeling. Maybe your neck joins in. Maybe your face feels tired after a normal workday. And you're starting to realize that something about that is not normal. If that sounds like you, this episode's for you. Because sometimes the missing piece is not more protection. Sometimes the missing piece is awareness, real awareness. Not just, yeah, I know I do that sometimes. I mean catching the behavior close enough to the moment that you can actually interrupt it before it becomes another hour of tension. This is the shift. So in this episode, I want to walk you through the biggest mistake people make when trying to solve jaw clenching. And then I want to give you 7 signs that what you may need is more than a passive appliance. Here's the mistake that most people make. They assume that if something is being used for clenching, it must be helping them stop clenching. And that sounds reasonable, but those are 2 very different jobs. A mouth guard usually does one job very well. It creates a barrier. It helps protect teeth. It may help protect enamel, and it may help protect restorations. It may reduce some of the wear and force that comes from repeated loading. That matters, but protection is not the same as interruption. And interruption is not the same as awareness. That's the part most people never hear clearly enough. If your teeth are covered, but your jaw muscles are still switching on over and over again during the day, then you may be safer on the dental side while still stuck in the exact same tension pattern. And that's where people start to feel confused. They think, but I already addressed this. Maybe, but maybe you addressed one layer of it. Maybe you addressed the effect and not the behavior. And those are not the same thing. Let's make this real. Say you press your teeth together every time you answer email, or every time you get into traffic, or every time you start focusing hard, or every time you start reading something stressful, or every time you lean into your phone and your whole body starts bracing a little. A mouth guard does not necessarily tell you that's happening. It does not say, hey, your jaw just turned on. It does not give you a cue right then when the pattern starts. It does not help you catch that you are already 10 minutes into another cycle of quiet tension. And that is where biofeedback becomes such a useful idea. Biofeedback is just a way of making something hidden easier to notice. And that's all. Something in your body is happening automatically. Muscle tension, effort, clenching, pressure. And instead of waiting until your temples hurt later or your face feels tired later, biofeedback helps move information closer to the moment. that that pattern is happening. And that's what makes it useful. Not because it's fancy, because it shortens the gap between the behavior and your awareness of the behavior. And that gap is where a lot of people get lost. Because by the time they feel the symptom, the pattern has already been running. So a simple way to think about this is a passive device helps protect you from what happens. A biofeedback tool helps you notice what you're doing. That does not mean that one's always better. It means that they're doing different jobs. And for someone whose biggest issue is daytime jaw tension, those jobs matter a lot. This is where something like ClenchAlert comes into the discussion very naturally. ClenchAlert is not about brute force protection. It's about awareness during waking use. It's a biofeedback training tool. The point is not for it to do the work for you. The point is to help you catch the moment your jaw starts loading so you can release it, reset, and start getting better at recognizing the pattern sooner. That matters because habits change through repetition. Notice it, release it, repeat. Notice it, release it, repeat. That's how a new response starts to become more familiar. Not overnight, not perfectly, but gradually. And for a lot of people, that's the missing piece. Not more coverage, more awareness. So if your question has been, why am I still tight even though I have a night guard? This may be the answer. Because protection and awareness are not the same thing. Let me slow this down and make it a little more practical. Because this pattern's easy to miss. You sit down at your computer, 15 minutes later, you notice your teeth are touching. You're driving somewhere. At the next red light, you realize your jaw's feeling tight. You get really absorbed in some task, and your temples start to feel heavy. You're scrolling through your phone with your head forward, and your face slowly starts feeling loaded. Nothing dramatic is happening. You're not chewing gum. You're not eating. You're not in a fight. You're not doing anything that obviously should make your jaw tired. And yet it's happening. Quietly, in the background. And this is what makes clenching so tricky. It hides inside your normal life. So people often notice the headache, but not the clench. They notice a tension, but not the buildup. They notice a fatigue, but not the repeated micro effort that created it. And that's why awareness matters. Awareness helps you catch the earlier part of the loop. The first sign is the clearest one. You catch yourself clenching while you're awake. That matters because daytime clenching gives you access to the pattern. If it's happening while you're awake, then it's reachable. You can learn to notice it. You can interrupt it. You can start retraining it. This is the person who says, I do it while I work. I do it when I drive. I do it when I'm stressed. I do it when I focus. I do it when I lift. That recognition matters more than most people realize. Because once the pattern becomes visible, it stops feeling random. And once it stops feeling random, it becomes more trainable. This is one reason awareness-based tools make the most sense for awake clenching. You're still in the moment. You still have a choice. You still have time to do the simplest reset. Lips together, teeth apart. That's such a small cue, but it gives your body a target. Not hanging open, not bracing shut, just quiet. This is where a lot of people get frustrated. You're doing something. You got the appliance. You wear it. You're trying to be responsible about it. And still, your jaw feels overworked. Your temples still ache. Your face still gets tired. Your neck gets pulled into the whole thing. If that's you, it doesn't mean that the guard is useless. It may be doing exactly what it was supposed to do. But If your real complaint is not just about your teeth, if your real complaint is tension, fatigue, effort, pressure, headaches, that's a clue. The protection may be helping one part of the problem while another part stays active. And this is a good place to pause and ask yourself something honestly. What am I actually trying to solve? Am I mainly trying to protect my teeth? Or am I trying to stop feeling like my jaw is working quietly all day? Those are not the same goal. A lot of people don't first describe clenching as a tooth issue. They describe it as muscle fatigue. They say things like, my jaw feels really tired. My temples are sore. My face is tight. My neck is always tense. I get headaches and I can't even tell where they start. That matters because it suggests the problem may be living more in the muscles than in the teeth. And the muscles can carry a surprising amount of load. When that load becomes repetitive, the discomfort does not always stay in one neat place. It can spread into the temples. It can blur into the face. It can pull into the neck. It can create this vague, nagging feeling that something's always switched on. If that sounds familiar, then the better question may be, how do I reduce how often this system turns on when it doesn't need to? That is a more useful question than asking how to shield the teeth. This is the part that often changes the way people see the whole problem. Your clenching probably is not random. It probably has triggers. Stress can trigger it. Focus can trigger it. Stillness plus mental effort can trigger it. Driving can trigger it. Head forward posture can trigger it. Phone scrolling can trigger it. Deadlines can trigger it. Conflict can trigger it. And that matters because predictable triggers are trainable triggers. Once you realize your jaw's not acting on its own, once you realize it tends to come online in certain states, you stop seeing it as random bad luck. You start seeing the pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can start getting earlier. That's the goal. Not perfect, earlier. Earlier noticing, earlier release, earlier interruption. That shift alone can make a huge difference. Because instead of finding out at 4:30 that your face has been tense all day, you start catching it at 10:15. Then maybe 9:40. Then right as it begins. That's how patterns lose strength. This is a really important dividing line. Some people mainly want protection. Other people want change. Neither goal is wrong, but they are different. If your main goal is to reduce wear and create a barrier, then a protective appliance makes a lot of sense. But if your real goal is to stop feeling like your jaw's always on, to reduce daytime tension, to stop temple pressure, to build a quieter resting posture, then you're asking for something else. You're asking for retraining. You're asking for a way to catch the moment that usually slips by unnoticed. And that matters because what many people want is not just to survive the pattern more safely. What they really want is to stop being surprised by their own jaw. That's a deeper goal. And once you recognize that, the whole conversation changes. This is where the Brux method fits so naturally. The framework is simple. B, build awareness. R, relax the response. U, understand triggers. X, exchange the pattern. That's the Brux method. And that order matters. Because if you do not notice a behavior, it's hard to change anything else. First you catch it, then you soften the response, then you learn the pattern, then you replace the old loop with a better one. That's why awareness matters so much. It's not a small step, it's the first step. And it's also why a biofeedback tool can fit into this process so well. It helps with the first part. It helps make the invisible behavior more visible. It gives you a better chance to catch the clench before it becomes another long stretch of muscular effort. Now, some people are just naturally good candidates for this kind of approach. If reminders already help you with posture, breathing, hydration, movement, or stress regulation, then you already understand the logic. A cue does not solve the problem for you, but it creates a decision point to give you a moment where you can do something different. That's the value of biofeedback in very simple terms. Not perfection, not magic, just a better chance to notice what your body's doing before the pattern runs too long. If that kind of prompt helps you in other parts of your life, there's a great chance that it might help here too. This is the final filter. Are you willing to participate in changing the pattern? Because if the answer is yes, awareness work becomes much more useful. Habit change is rarely passive. You notice, you release, you reset, you repeat. That's true whether you're using a phrase, a breathing cue, a posture reset, a journal, or a biofeedback tool like ClenchAlert during daytime training. The point is not to become hypervigilant. The point's to become earlier. That's the word I want you to remember. Earlier. Earlier noticing. Earlier release. Earlier interruption. That's how a learned pattern starts to lose its grip. So let's make this simple. You may be a strong fit for awareness-based work if several of these sound like you. You catch yourself clenching while working, driving, or concentrating. You already tried a mouthguard and still feel jaw or temple tension. Your symptoms feel more muscular than dental. Stress or posture make your jaw worse. You want to reduce the habit, not just protect your teeth. Prompts and reminders help you in other parts of life. You're willing to participate in changing the pattern. If that list sounds familiar, awareness may be the piece you're missing. So here's a simple practice to start today. Pick 3 places where your clenching tends to show up most often. Email, driving, focused work, scrolling, conflict, deadlines. Now, every time you notice yourself in one of those zones, do this. First, name the state. Stress, focus, posture, bracing. Second, release the effort. Unclench your teeth. Soften your tongue. Let your shoulders drop. Third, return to the cue. Lips together, teeth apart, and your tongue on the roof of the mouth just behind your front teeth. If you're having trouble finding the position, just say the word with, and your tongue goes right to that spot. That's not complicated, but simple, repeated often enough is how patterns start to change. Here's what I want to leave you with. If your jaw still feels overworked, even though you already have a mouthguard, that does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It may simply mean you're solving one layer of the problem while another layer is still running quietly in the background. Your teeth may be more protected, but your muscles may still be working. If your muscles are still working, your jaw may feel switched on. Your temples may still ache. Your face may still feel tired. That's why this distinction matters so much. A protective appliance can be absolutely useful. But if your pattern shows up during the day, if it gets worse with stress or concentration, and if it leaves you feeling more tense than relieved, then awareness may be the most important next step. Because you can't change the pattern until you catch it. And once you start catching it, things begin to make more sense. If this episode helped you hear your own pattern more clearly, subscribe to the Clenching Chronicle. And remember this, awareness is not a small step. It is the first step